good night and welcome to Uncut with Jules Vasquez. I'm here with the Minister of Home Affairs tonight, Honorable Kareem Musa. He doesn't have on a face mask, but we're socially distanced and we have a glass partition, so it's also shutter-proof. And so we have a safe distance and we are observing the necessary protocols so that there is no aerosolization, exchange of aerosolization. Thanks for being here tonight, Minister.
Thank you very much, Jules, for having me on Uncut, a very popular show right now, especially among the young kids. My son,
Your son
10-year-old Liam, good night, Liam. Go to bed, it's almost 8 o'clock. He's a huge fan of Uncut, Jules.
Okay.
Or he's a huge fan that I'm on your show.
I think
he's very excited about this.
I think it's the music.
Yes.
It's the music. He likes the music. Minister, if we could start straight off, what's up with your sister-in-law? I have to ask, is she still the DHS? We've heard reliably that it's not within your ministry, but you have taken up for her publicly before in the House of Representatives. Is your sister-in-law, Melissa Diaz, still the DHS, or has she returned to her substantive post?
Well, Dr. Melissa Diaz Musa is the Deputy Director, Central Region Manager, Deputy Manager of the Central Region. So she was never the DHS. Let us start there. I think that
she was the acting DHS.
Yes, we've been making a lot of fuss over the last two months and a half over this supposed appointment, when in fact it was always that she was acting DHS. If you recall, back in December, I think it was December 7th of 2020, Dr. Manza, who was or is the DHS, was going on leave. And Dr. Melissa was asked to hold over during that time of leave to serve as the acting DHS.
Right.
As you know, the DHS recently returned to work about a week ago. Incidentally, around the very same time, I think it was December 8th, Dr. Marvin Manzanero caught COVID.
I recall.
Yes, and so he was out suffering with COVID and returned to work, I believe, last week. At that point in time, the transition was that Dr. Diaz would then return to her substantive post, that's where she is now, Deputy Regional Manager of the Central Region. So that's where that is right now. I think there is a lot of confusion out there, because when the People's United Party came into office November 11th, we had a first cabinet meeting, and Dr. Manzanero had made a presentation. At the time, as you recall, Jules, we were around 5,000 plus positive COVID cases in the country of Belize. And so at that presentation, our expectations as ministers were very high of Dr. Marvin Manzanero. And so we were expecting to hear a plan to deal with COVID.
Right.
Needless to say, you've heard the results of that meeting, and there was no plan in place. And so we were all very disappointed by that.
I heard he got ripped apart by certain cabinet members.
I think we were all very disappointed, to be quite frank with you, that there was no plan in place. And let me say something good about Dr. Marvin Manzanero. Let me start from the good points. I think Dr. Manzanero did an excellent job between February or March, when we had our first COVID case, up until later on in the year, when the cases began to spike. I think he has an excellent ability to communicate. I think we were all looking forward to his presentations, maybe weekly, bi-weekly presentations, of giving us the statistics of COVID. And I have to give him credit for that, because it offered myself comfort, I can tell you that. And it offered comfort to a lot of Belizeans, not just me. And it resulted in him even being awarded MBE or OBE, I'm not sure.
MBE?
Certainly a national hero. And so when it is that we came into office, like I said, I had great respect for Dr. Marvin, and I still do to this day. For varying reasons, I have respect for him. But at the same time, you have to understand that we were coming up against a pandemic that was roaring, that was surging. And so people are looking to ministers and CEOs to solve the COVID crisis. They're not looking for comfort any longer. They're not looking for a very calm approach, which Dr. Manza has and had in his presentations. That was excellently done on his part back in the day. But now they needed a plan. The people of Belize needed a plan, and they needed a change in direction.
But do we have a plan now? I have not seen a plan. So we still don't have a plan.
Well, what do you mean, do we have a plan? Are you aware? Let me just say this.
I haven't seen a plan.
Yes, but have you
seen... A plan
seen...
is something that's written on a paper or in a format and presented, and you can say, this is our plan. You all don't have a plan.
Okay, I'm talking internally. Again, I'm not in the Ministry of Health.
I understand.
And I don't expect the Ministry of Health to call Jules Vasquez into their committee meetings to discuss this
but
plan.
It's a public matter. I'm saying that you all in Cabinet have not gotten a plan yet.
Of course we have, Jules Vasquez. Of course we have. Let me tell you, there has been a complete shift in the testing of our country. Back when Dr. Marvin Manzanero was there, he refused to do rapid testing. So rapid testing was one of them. We increased mobile testing across the country. We increased surveillance of these large operations, businesses, grocery stores, banks. We increased surveillance in those properties, in those areas. We allowed private hospitals to do testing. These are all things that you might think that it was under Dr. Manza, but it was not. So these are all part of the plan. And so, and let me tell you this, there is also a synergy and a team effort that needs to be recognized right here, right now. Let me just say this.
I saw it in the endorsement from the BMDA.
Yes, but let me say this. Dr. Manza is a hero. Wonderful. We all recognize him as a hero.
He's a hero that sit in the secretary's pool.
He's a hero. But it does not necessarily mean that he will be the hero forever to solve the crisis. Can we accept that? Are we going to agree on that? Or are we going to say he was doing a wonderful job in November and December of 2020 and needed to continue with the cases at 5,000 plus with no plan? Are we going to say that's what we wanted? Or did we want to save lives? That is a question we need to accept and answer. And so I'm not saying tonight that Dr. Melissa Diaz Musa now wears that cape.
Okay.
I'm not saying she is the superhero, not at all.
Right.
It is a team effort.
I think the BMDA kind of said that though.
Yes, and I'm talking the lab technicians, I'm talking the nurses, the doctors, the lab specialists, all of them. Those 3,000 plus healthcare workers are the heroes. And there's nothing wrong in taking off that wonderful limelight that was on Dr. Manza and now spotting it on a team. And so, yes, we have, you and I, enjoy the privilege tonight to discuss one man, Dr. Marvin Manzanero, at 8:05 p.m. with no curfew in place because of that team. If Dr. Manza was in position, very likely we would not even be here. We would be at home locked up under curfew because we now enjoy these privileges. When the rest of the world is on lockdown, Belize has today 151 cases, positive, active cases from 5,000. If that is not a plan, then you tell me what is.
I still, factually, I know that a plan does not exist. I agree that they have done testing, they've rolled out testing, and all these things.
Factually, you're saying that. So magically, you're Donald Trump. You're saying this was all a hoax, and magically the cases have reduced, is what you're saying.
In these situations, my whole point is that the reason Dr. Manza was demonized is because you all decided that we're pin on this man that we now had no plan. Hold on, make it done. So we'll pin on this man that we now had no plan. But you all know that in a moving crisis, a plan is only good. It's like a COVID test. It's only good for 15 seconds. I agree that the People's United Party government, once elected, to aggressively test has been a difference maker, a critical difference maker. But that is not a plan. I'm saying a plan in this situation is just a red herring for the reason for say, boy, this man got to go. Because a plan is only good for a day. Every day the situation changes.
I'm not limiting the plan just to the testing, Jules. Do you recall over the Christmas holiday, the very stringent measures that were in place? up to the JPs being in stores to monitor, to make sure people were not overcrowding. I have to tell you, I was extremely on edge whenever I would pass Mirab and I would see overflowing parking lots and Brody's and Sayview. I could not, I could not handle that because I knew we had 5,000 plus cases, it could erupt. But to think that we came out with all of these regulations that actually bore results. And so it's not just about testing, it's about putting in regulations that actually have results. And I don't know if you're going to deny that as well, that the regulations thus far make no sense. Maybe you'll go there.
Sir, it's been obviously a resounding success and we're all grateful.
I don't know if you're being sarcastic though.
No, I'm not.
But 140 cases is to me a success.
But a large part of that, it's a success, a resounding success. But let us keep in mind, and I am not saying that the Dr. Manzanero management, I do not believe it was working at that time. Situation being what it was. The present situation we're now in, because you have learned very quickly, you have an unusual advantage over most politicians. You've been breathing in the oxygen of a political life from birth, right? So you've been exposed to that your entire life. However, the bureaucracy is new to you.
Yes.
It's new to so many of you all. Of the 26 elected representatives, probably only 5 have prior governmental experience. So it's been a steep learning curve. And how this relates to Dr. Manzanero is, should he have been treated? You said he's a hero, or he was a hero for that time. Should he be treated as he is now? He's on administrative leave, accused of misconduct, accused of causing the loss of human life.
Listen, what I will say is this. Dr. Manza, whenever there's a change in administration, Jules, and even within the UDP change of administration, let's take our minds back to 2015. I think back then there was a change in the CEO of health to Dr. Ramon Figueroa.
I recall.
Ramon Figueroa perhaps had a different plan or a different mindset from Dr. Pitts. And
Right.
so Dr. Pitts was booted out, so to speak, of his office. Again, this is all in the UDP term,
Right.
because there's a change at the top of the hierarchy in the Ministry of Health. Boots out Dr. Pitts. There is a negotiation that takes place. We don't hear about that negotiation. A negotiation takes place and Dr. Pitts goes off quietly into that good night. And we don't hear from him again. He is happy with his negotiation and he goes home. Like I said in this particular case, Jules, that we're dealing with right now, Dr. Manza, there has been a change in administration, a change in minister and a change in CEO. They were not happy, and I can tell you overall, ministers were not happy with the direction that we were going without a plan. From what I have been informed, again, this is not my ministry, but you are still asking me these questions as though it is, but I will still tell you what I know. From what I have been informed, they have made offers to Dr. Manza. It might not be to elevate him to CEO, because that's the only other place you can go.
That's the bureaucracy.
So how do you elevate somebody that you're saying had no plan as DHS to CEO? Because that's going to be the next question. Why demote him? Why not promote him? You cannot promote him. What I would suggest is perhaps a transfer to another ministry where he can likewise be a hero. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the Ministry of Health.
And that's my issue. The handling or the mishandling of it, that it has now erupted into this public sore that is hemorrhaging the government, in my opinion, on goodwill points. On goodwill points, because I agree, people are very satisfied with the government, must be very satisfied with the government's performance in COVID management. You have to accept that. Accept it. However,
I thought I was to convince you to accept it, but you have accepted it. That's wonderful.
I am trying to convince you of the corollary, which is that being established, why sour your performance by maltreating, by relegating this man to the secretary's pool, half on one job that's a demotion, then send her home on the accusation.
I don't know that
it's been mishandled, Minister.
I don't know that he is not going to receive his very same salary.
I'm sure he will, but a demotion.
But no, you see, so the counter to that is you want to promote him to CEO.
No, sir, I'm saying it has to be managed differently. Has it not been mishandled?
I don't think that we can conclude this conversation tonight. Again, you are asking me to give an opinion whether or not there is evidence of misconduct based on the letter that was sent to him. I don't know the details of that. Something in relation to Baha had made an offer to him.
Right.
He never took it up. Let us do a similar scenario in the police department. Say I come into as Minister of Home Affairs, and I learn that my Commissioner of Police, because to me that's the equivalent, my Commissioner of Police was offered 100 face recognition cameras by the U.S. Embassy to put in the St. Martin's area of Belize City, and declined it. I don't need that. We can use Officer Gamboa. He's doing a great job in Martins. We don't need cameras.
Aye.
And then there's a lot of lives lost. And we see that there was an opportunity in which we could have maybe solved more crimes. The question then is, was the commissioner guilty of misconduct in not accepting that assistance that was coming from the U.S. Embassy? And by the way, I'm putting in a plug, hopefully getting an offer tomorrow. I'm hoping for offers here from the U.S. Embassy. But I'm just saying, I'm giving an example coming from my ministry of the Commissioner of Police declining an offer to do something positive that would have helped. So I can't get into the nitty-gritty of the misconduct allegation. That is something, again, between the ministry, Dr. Manza, and I'm sure now the public service. But again, that is something that we cannot conclude here tonight, that discussion.
Minister, I've abused your kindness and your versatility by engaging in an argument about a ministry which is not your own. I thank you for your indulgence. If we could talk about your ministry. And let's first start, we'll build it off COVID. 2 weeks ago exactly, I saw a COVID event in front of your constituency office. And I think we have footage of it, although I think Chicken Dread claims the rights on this footage. I think we can roll the footage, guys, that we have in front of the minister's office 2 weeks ago. And I'm not doing it to put you on the spot as much as to say that what's it like at the constituency level managing people in a, we have the footage, guys, managing people in a desperate situation. There was a big crowd outside your office. There was no social distance. People's masks were in an injured state. Here's the footage. I think that's from my cell phone as I drove past. I think Chicken Dread comes along and we start to exchange words.
Well, but I'm glad to see the police are out there to try to enforce, because if there is a crowd, they should be 6 feet apart.
Right. So, and then we also have the footage, I think, from the camera that day, guys. I think you still have it on your chip, but I want to ask you about that. I want to ask you, how do you manage people's expectations? People are so desperate right now, Minister. What we saw in front of your office that day was real desperation.
I would not refer to it as desperation, Jules. It is that people in the constituency would like to have an audience with their area representative, and there's nothing wrong with that. In times gone by, before COVID, this would be something normal in front of my office on a Wednesday, if I am there. And so what I am agreeing with you, if there was no social distancing being practiced outside, then we perhaps needed better enforcement out there. I see the police was there. I personally was in my office. If you know my office, there is a waiting area and then my office in the back. Yeah. I was seeing constituents on a one-on-one basis. There was no crowding inside the office. I can tell you that, because there is a limit on 10. You can only have 10 people gathered anywhere. So this is outside. This is out in public. And so these people cannot be charged because they're outside in public.
No,
outside
I'm not
on the
saying
street.
to charge them. I'm not trying to put the highlight on that. I'm saying how difficult is it right now. You are being a representative in a pandemic time. What happens outside is impossible to regulate, and the police came
it's
did
no
their
different,
part.
Jules, than November 10th, the day before election.
Really?
It's absolutely no different.
But are you seeing an increased level? You've been in politics your whole life, as on the periphery or in the middle of it. Have you seen an increase in social desperation because of the pandemic?
I think all around, Jules, again, and this is before the election, that type of pressure has been coming down on politicians, not just PUP politicians, UDP politicians as well. Ever since we started with the pandemic, there is this greater sense of need. We have to accept that. A lot of people lost their jobs from the tourism sector. And so we have 60,000 plus people unemployed. Yes, we have started the process of getting the tourism industry back up and running. And we have started aggressively in other areas of government like agriculture. And so there is this need to diversify our economy away from tourism. Yes, to include tourism still, but to diversify it in a time when we don't have that tourism dollar coming in. And so we, as a government, are aggressively pursuing that. In the meantime, while we are waiting to get these different ministries going with these aggressive plans for diversifying the economy, we have to find ways to cater to our people. One of them is through the grocery bags. I can tell you that while I hear a lot of constituencies complaining about the number of grocery bags they're receiving and it's not getting to everybody that it should be, I can tell you that I am satisfied in Caribbean Shores because before the election, my people who are in need were not getting grocery bags. They were getting it, yes, from the area representative, but not from the government. And so now we have the Ministry of Human Development that is actually assisting the needy residents of Caribbean Shores with grocery bags. So I am not going to be one to complain about that, but I know there may be other areas who feel slighted. But I feel that my people's needs in that regard, while we are getting the economy back going, is being serviced.
Did the disruption in the grocery bags affect you all on the ground? That's number one. And number two, has it affected the goodwill enjoyed by the PUP when it won on November 11, the disruption in that pantry program / grocery bag?
There had to have been a pause, Jules. There had to have been, and I tell you why. There was a lot of wastage that was occurring. We're talking in one family, all 10 family members from the 1-year-old, the 2-year-old, all of them on the pantry list getting grocery bags, when others, because they happen to be PUP supporters, were not getting. And those families also had 10 family members, none of whom were getting any assistance from the pantry. And so there had to be a revisiting of the equitable distribution of the grocery bags. As I understand it, I can tell you now, at least for the last month or month and a half, we have been getting our grocery bags in the community. And so I don't have any complaints. Yes, there was a period where I personally had to find the resources to help my constituents in terms of the grocery bag, but now that is being fulfilled by the government.
We have to take a break now. We thank our guests for bearing with us on the non-home affairs matters of the first segment of our show. And in the next segment, we will talk about home affairs. So stay with us, brief commercial break. We'll be right back.
Start your year with a win with Bellikin and its new promotion, Papa Stopper. Yes, sir. Every time you pop one stopper off our Bellikin, make sure you check under the crown. If you see one bottle shape, you win one free Bellikin. If you see one ball, you win $20. If you see one star, you win $100. And once you see one diamond, you win $1,000. Sure, Bellikin again, you know. Papa Stopper. When you pop a stopper off a Bellikin, check to see if you're a winner. You can collect your free beer or $20 cash prize at the store nearest to you. If you win $100 or $1,000, redeem your prize at the nearest B&B sales center.
Promotion is valid until Saturday, March 27th or while supplies last.
Papa Stopper.
Bellikin, the beer of Belize.
On Wednesday, 3rd March 2021, voters of the 9 municipalities will have an opportunity to elect the members to constitute their councils. On your ballot, it is your decision and choice. Exercise it. Be assured that the COVID-19 protocols will be in place for your safe voting. Let your decision be your choice. Voters must properly wear their face mask or other face, nose, and mouth covering Maintain consistent 6 feet social distancing and sanitize hands before entering the polling station. Having entered the polling station, the voter shows his voter identification card and announces his name in an audible voice. All voters will be required to temporarily remove their face mask or nose and mouth covering for the purpose of verifying the facial identity of the voter. The first poll clerk verifies the particular of the voter on the voters list, while the second poll clerk verifies the particulars in the binder. The voter's name is then ruled off the voters list. The voter is then required to show his right index finger to ensure that he has not yet voted. The voter's right index finger is then sanitized. Allow finger to dry for 5 seconds before dipping it up to the first joint in the indelible ink. The voter is then directed to the presiding officer, who then initials a ballot paper and issues it to the voter, along with a sanitized pencil. The voter then proceeds to the polling booth and marks a cross on the right-hand side of the ballot, opposite the name of the candidates of his choice. With the ballot paper folded to conceal the vote, the voter shows the presiding officer her initials, places the ballot paper inside the ballot box, and then places the pencil in the container for used pencil for resanitization. The voter then exits the polling station. Remember, you are permitted to vote in Belize City for 1 mayor and 10 councillors. In Belmopan City and Towns for 1 mayor and 6 councillors. Disabled, elderly, and pregnant women will be given priority. Electors are encouraged to take along their voter identification card to their polling station to facilitate the process. Your ballot paper will be considered void if it does not have the presiding officer's initials, if the voter has voted for more candidates than there are seats, if the ballot paper is not marked for any candidate, if the ballot paper contains any mark that can identify the voter, and if the ballot paper is unmarked or void for uncertainty. Let your decision be your choice. Always remember to follow all COVID-19 protocols to keep safe. A message brought to you by the Elections and Boundaries Department.
Price Premier Products Limited has been proudly serving Belize for many years. We aim to serve you better and are pleased to announce our new office with convenient parking at number 1728 Chetamal Street, Belize City. Here, you will find our Price Smart outlet opening on weekdays from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Be impressed with the variety of quality branded products such as Pampers, Always, Tide and Downy, Del Monte, DAC, Vigo and Alessi, Duracell, Crystal Farm Cheese, Linda Powdered Milk, Great Lakes Pork Tails, Ground Coffee, Authentic Gillette for men and women. We distribute many of the world's top and finest brands to supermarkets and stores nationwide. For authentic brands and quality products, visit us today. Price Premier Products Limited, importer and distributor of fine quality products.
Technology is ubiquitous, and it's transforming how, when, and where we work. Full-Tech Systems is placing award-winning devices in the hands of information workers, allowing them to work without compromise in a world without wires, to innovate, create, and to maximize productivity anytime, anywhere, satisfying the needs of the desk-centric remote and field worker and every other worker in between. We are providing the industry's best devices to businesses going through the process of digital transformation. Partner with us today to provide the solutions that will allow your employees to work effectively and efficiently to enhance your customers' experience. Full-Tech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price but stay for the service.
Welcome back to Uncut. Let's jump right into it because we are behind on home affairs issues and the public truly wants to know. First of all, Minister, can we talk about the subject that you have popularized so much in Belize, marijuana and hemp? The two of them got kind of conflated, and that is regrettable because they're two very different arguments. But at the outset, and I asked you this at the police training room, and I'll say it again because I've checked. Why are you selling people on this fantasy when you know they cannot, banks cannot touch it, we cannot get financing for these operations because it will destroy our correspondent banking relations. Even in the US, people are stuck with crate loads of cash because they cannot bank it due to federal restrictions. Why don't we just say up front, financing not available?
All right, let me start on that point there, Jules. Interesting you're asking that question, and you speak so confidently on the topic as though you're a banker yourself.
Because I've been speaking to bankers.
I've actually had that conversation with several bankers.
Okay.
And while it is a tricky situation, it is not impossible. Look at Jamaica, Jules. Have they lost correspondent banking? They're fully legalized. They have over 2,000 cultivation licenses. Currently, they have not one day lost any correspondent banking over cannabis. Now, I understand your point that if we are putting cannabis-generated proceeds into one of these big established banks, like a Scotia Bank or soon to be Belize Bank, or a Heritage Bank, or one of these other big Atlantic Bank, I don't think any of those banks will want to take our money because they enjoy a very good correspondent banking relation with the US banks, who they themselves are very nervous when it comes to that question. And so it wouldn't be in those banks that you're depositing. It would be in a credit union that doesn't do correspondent banking. It would be, I don't know if the National Bank does correspondent banking. I don't think they do. You're sure they don't? And you don't think they would love that injection, Jules? An injection of proceeds from cannabis into their bank that probably doesn't have much money in it?
So, but I'm saying that there is what they call the risk of contamination.
Yes, but
the minute you have this money, the banks, and there aren't many with correspondent banking relationships, and it's a tenuous hold they have on it, will say we can't afford to touch that.
I could see those banks saying, you, sir, you, Mr. Jules Vasquez, the holder of cultivation license number 20, you cannot bank with us. Any money you try to bring to us, even if it's not from cannabis, it's from generated here at News 7, they won't accept your money. And so somebody like you who has a legitimate business like Channel 7 News might not want to get into the cannabis business because, like you said, banks will probably blacklist you.
Yes.
And say, I don't want your money. But if the money from cannabis is going into one of these banks that does not engage in correspondent banking, then how is it that those banks, which are doing their due diligence, will be contaminated by your money, which is in that bank?
No, the bigger bank will view them as contaminated. But Minister, I take your point. You feel that the risk is manageable.
Yes, Jamaica is proof on that point.
Jamaica has the difference in size of economy between Jamaica and Belize.
Even greater, your argument that greater for contamination.
Absolutely.
Greater risk.
Sir, let's not argue. I accept your point. Good. So the cannabis consultant, Alex Lavin, has been saying that licenses should be given out on a merit basis. But you agree that there's no expert. So how will merit be determined? How will merit be measured?
When you say merit, Jules, and you are, again, you're downgrading the ability of our people, because we can learn the proper procedure. So we can go through a phase of learning and training on what the proper standards are and how to comply with the regulations to achieve. And the goal in this industry, like many other industries, is CGMP, Certificate of Good Manufacturing Practice. That should be the goal. I think it was Nigel Miguel who, on one talk show, coined the phrase excellence. We have to strive for Belizean excellence. And so that is something that we have to aim for. We cannot do our own little operation in Belize, again, using pesticides, contaminating the trees, and having them all have mildew on them. Powdery mildew is a term that I recently learned, as well as I'm sure you just, and mold, which would cause damage to your lungs. Right. So you don't want to be ingesting or consuming those products. And so what he's saying on a merit basis is that we can learn as a country, or people can learn, to grow marijuana in a responsible way, in a proper way, the way it has been done in other countries that have achieved the CGMP.
But whenever there is time for any measurement in Belize, a measurement that qualifies you for something, friend and company and who they're in a party, all those things factor in. Mm-hmm. I'm asking you now, will it be a level playing field, or will it be politics, PUDP style as usual?
All right, what it is that I envision, Jules, and at the end of the day, this is just my individual, personal vision. It is not the vision of the board, because there will be an industrial hemp and cannabis commission that will review all applications. I will not sit on that commission. I will have no say on that commission. It will be made up, I am hoping, of CEOs from a cross-section of Ministry of Health, Ministry of Tourism, because that's where we want to go. All of these CEOs sitting on this board and making determinations. And so, but what I would want to see for the cannabis industry, we're not talking industrial hemp, cannabis. What I would want to see is a formula that includes, yes, big businesses, big established businesses. You might not want to hear that, but that's what Americans coming to Belize want to look for. They want to say, oh, wow, I recognize that brand. That's a Bob Marley brand. I want that brand. That's a good thing. We also have to have our local brand, our Belizean breeze. You ever heard of that?
I'm old enough.
And so we have to have different marketing strategies. And so we have to include not just big businesses in this, but we also have to include a social aspect, a social license. And that is something that I am insisting on, that we won't just have these big players in the game.
Right.
And let us be real, there are about 5 to 10 existing growers in our country who are under the radar. I would want to see them incorporated under this social license. They won't be subjected to the high fees that are charged to these big companies. The big companies now, you're asking me whether that will be subjected to PUDP? Absolutely not. I'm talking big American companies can come to Belize, but the requirement will be you have to have a Belizean in your ownership structure. You have to have
in
a
Jamaica,
Belizean
it's 51%.
51% ownership?
Yes. Local ownership.
I think Barbados recently did 30%. I think that's a good starting point, 30%. And so we would envision these big companies coming in, teaming up with Belizean partners. Not necessarily, I can't go and tell them, oh, because my friend at PUP, please include me in your big established company that you have in Europe or Canada. Please include so and so because in a PUP. Imagine me to go explain that to them. You think they would go based on my recommendation?
I think these conversations are had all the time. Please include a friend of mine, and you can be a friend of mine, but you would never engage in that.
But at the end of the day, let me finish my vision for the formula. So we have the big businesses, we have the social licenses, and we have the government. Now the government, in my opinion, plays the biggest role, and we have to be able, Jules, even though we don't have the resources, we have to be able to monitor all of these companies and social licenses that have cultivation licenses, and we have to tag and trace to ensure that government gets its revenue. If we have licenses all across the country, the way Michael Perifit envisioned it with industrial hemp, 36 licenses, of which only one of them is growing. The next 35, don't ask me about them because I don't know if they know how to grow industrial hemp. But it's not going to be like that. It's not going to be the wild, wild west of cannabis in Belize. It has to be responsibly done so that the government ensures that it gets its tax revenue. Otherwise, it makes no sense, Jules. We're trying to diversify our economy and create jobs. And that is the end goal. So government has to ensure that it gets its dollar.
I have to switch subjects because we have so many. 2 days ago, when you were grilled by the media in your constituency on an issue which is hot button in itself, you made an interesting declaration that most politicians in Belize can't make. You said that I personally have never gotten $1 from Mike Lashcroft, any kind of contribution, none whatsoever. That may be true in your specific case, but ultimately it is a dishonest statement because your party received money from Mike Lashcroft and you received money from your party.
I have received money from my party, but from what my party tells me, we have not gotten it from Mike Lashcroft. So you're challenging me now. Again, you are coming with confident facts. And how am I going to
So you're saying the PUP did not receive money from Mike Lashcroft?
I am saying what I have been told, sir. That's all I can tell you.
But you're old enough
I am not on all of the high-level committees that does negotiations to get donations for the party. I have never been, and maybe hopefully I will never be on those big committees to negotiate those things. But I can tell you I have never gotten any money from him, and I am told the party has not, at least this election.
At least it would be a first.
In the past, I can't speak for the past. I'm speaking for now.
But you're old enough and wise enough and experienced enough to know your straight lines from your curves. In that case, you can't believe the PUP never really get money from Ashcroft. I believe it, both the PUP and
so
UDP. So
you're saying that I am naive and gullible?
I am saying that you are I don't believe you're right. I believe that's what you're presenting to me.
I
don't believe
telling
you're
you what I know. If I tell you something else,
no.
If I tell you I got money
what they
from
told
him,
you,
yes.
That's not what you know, Minister.
So I was to go and investigate it, is what you're saying, to make sure that they didn't get.
Well, if one wants to stay, you have presented multiple times that you want to stay free of that any taint that could be any reputational taint that could come from that.
I'm not saying, I'm saying I'm not on that high level committee to do that negotiation. I hope I never am, but I am telling you what they told me. If I tell you otherwise, you're asking me to lie, and I'm not going to do that.
Minister, jumping now to the subject of Chester Williams.
Great guy.
So many, you've said it privately and publicly. So many in the department, because of the natural agitation that exists in a department with 3,000 people doing a very hard job. There's a natural state of agitation. But so many felt, there he is pumping iron, which has become his daily regimen, I'm told. But so many people in your department, in the police department, felt that, well, Onogwanya Chester, he do this for UDP, whatever, you will need a more PUP-friendly commissioner. You have not done that.
Let me tell you why I like Chester Williams. One of the number one reasons, there are many, but one of the primary reasons I like him is because I judge him based on his predecessor, Alan Wiley. You could never ever get a mic in front of Alan Wiley, and every time you did, he said he doesn't watch the news. He lived under a rock and he doesn't know what's happening. Now turn to Chester Williams, and he's on the news almost every night, and he gives you all an interview almost every night.
Is that a good thing? I thought that was one of the criticisms of Dr. Manza.
To me, that's a good thing. And that, I told you just now, if you rewind your footage, that was the best thing about Manza as well. That
he was, he got, look up on
yes,
TV?
because
well, you can't like your Prime Minister that much.
You have to be upfront with your Belizean people and always answer the questions that they have.
Your
and
Prime
that is
Minister
why I have
had a
never
press
turned away.
conference 107 days now. Your Prime Minister hasn't had a press conference.
I have seen interviews that you have given.
He does interviews, but not a press conference.
So what's the difference? You ask questions in an interview.
Sir, it's a huge difference because let's not argue it, but I'm saying that it's a huge technical difference.
You get reports from ministers who are capable. You see, you get caught up in this trap of the Dean Barrow trap. He was one man and he was Michael Jordan. The rest of them couldn't talk. And so you had to listen to every time Dean Barrow, they call a press conference, we have to go. And so none of the other ministers, you ever hear Pablo talk? Pablo Mari?
I've heard him talk.
So you're hearing Michelle Shabat talk, you're hear Kareem Musa talk, you're hear Jules Sits, you're hear a myriad of ministers who can present themselves speak. So there's no need for you to always rely on this Dean Barrow approach. We need Dean Barrow.
We got some of our best interviews from Michael Finnegan, your good friend.
Yes, that's one, but then those are more comedic.
Sir, did the dropping of charges at the Port of Belize, I should say that disciplinary charges were brought at the Port of Belize. I'm doing this within the context of Waterloo. We know Waterloo is a pending investment, and disciplinary charges were brought against police for pursuing those protesters on the ground. Your predecessor in this job and your one-time roommate in college at law school, Mike Perfeet, was livid at the police for doing their job. He was livid at the police for removing the rioters. Right?
Yes.
Livid.
Yes.
And action was taken. But under your government, I noticed that those police officers, no disciplinary action was followed through, and they quietly returned to their duties. Is this a signal to the investor, Waterloo Holdings, that, hey, what happened there was okay, and those police officers did not do wrong, and they're prepared to do it again? To stand up for the investor?
Absolutely not. I think you are misinterpreting that, and it's something that I will have to inquire more about, because you're telling me this happened. I don't even know when it happened.
But you recall?
Yes, I recall that they were charged. I recall they were suspended, and suspension usually has a limited time.
Yes.
Hold on, it has a limited time. And so upon the expiry...
But suspended without sanction.
They weren't put on interdiction, is what I'm saying.
Suspended without sanction, but I'm saying no charge was
what do you want me to do after the suspension if the suspension was served?
Was the government involved in saying, listen, let that slide away, because we have to send... The investor was very upset. The investor is Michael Ashcroft. The investor was very upset.
So what do you want me to do about that?
This government, it is widely believed,
the suspension imposed by the past administration expired. They put the suspension in. You agree with that?
But
that expired. What do you want me to do after they imposed that?
Yes. But
so you want me to then go and do something else?
I am saying that it was not pursued to its logical conclusion. It was left...
Like I said, I will have to look into that to find out what came of that investigation. All I'm saying is that a suspension that was imposed by a last administration expired. What am I to do? I'll look into it for you. But there's nothing sinister like what you're proposing. Again, nothing to do with Michael Ashcroft, is what I'm saying.
I hear you.
But you don't believe nothing?
Sir, I am saying that, look at this. Ordinary citizens, and you know this, are meant to face cruel consequences for COVID violations on the daily. But when we look at what happened in the case of the Big Creek port, they did not, their charges were quietly dropped when they were breaching quarantine and allowing their workers to enter the community. Those were gross violations. At the time, you remember the hysteria it caused, but those charges quietly went away when the PUP were in office.
You're asking
is it
me,
that there is a
me
double standard?
No, but
where small people are penalized and punished to the maximum.
Okay. You're asking me very case-specific instances.
Yes.
The Big Creek port, I was not aware of that. I will also look into that. But let me
These are two ports,
big
money is involved.
But let me counter
PUP
your
supporters.
argument.
We know the owners of the Big Creek Court supported the PUP.
Yes, let me counter your argument, Jules. Are you aware that on, today is what, Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Last week, I believe it was Thursday, or maybe it was even it was this Tuesday. Yesterday, are you aware that the proprietors of Old Belize were taken before the courts yesterday? Someone because they had a beach activity, and you're talking about big people. You can't get bigger than that.
Well, I think the Port of Belize and Waterloo, the Port of Belize, Waterloo, and Big Creek are bigger, but I didn't know they were taken.
They were taken yesterday, and they were charged for the social gathering that they had for hosting a social gathering
on Valentine's Day.
I don't recall the exact date, but yes. So they were charged, and so even though that was after the fact, we have to take action in these instances, regardless of big companies or small people, because we are in a pandemic and we have to ensure that the laws are being complied with.
Great, but you're evading my question by offering another instance.
Yes, because you're asking me to give you a report on that.
But I'm saying there are two ports. There are two ports where stuff happened, and in two cases we see that the authorities have erred on the side of the investor.
All right. Going back to your first one, because you're making an unfair comparison. The first one, you agreed with me. It was a suspension. The suspension expired.
But it did
so
not
nobody was charged.
Yes.
You agree? Now you're taking the Big Creek port where people were charged, but charges were dropped.
But in both cases, the investor was given comfort. That's my point. Whereas
I don't know that no investor in the situation in Belize City, because I don't know if any investor was given comfort by the expiration of a suspension.
The investor was given comfort in Big Creek. The investor at Waterloo was given comfort.
Like what you're saying in Big Creek, I will look into that. But a suspension expiring, is my opinion, is not comfort to anybody at Waterloo.
These officers got no sanction. A suspension without sanction is just a paid vacation.
Well, like I said, it was imposed by the last administration. So I will have to look into that to see how that was ever resolved. What came of it then? But again, you should give your interviewee notice so that they come with the facts, man. You just to spring their thing, their questions with specific cases.
I thought the name of the show is Uncut Ambush.
Yeah, it is. But there are other cases, let me tell you this, Jules, of normal Belizean citizens when they go to court for face mask violations or social distancing, where cases have been dropped. And so, again, it's case-specific, depending on the facts surrounding each case. So you can't make a blanket statement that, oh, everybody that get charged with face mask, they have to go the full extent. I can tell you there are cases where cases have been dropped for face mask violation, for social distancing. So that's an unfair statement.
Minister, I'm told that you asked for this ministry. I don't know if you are masochist to have asked for it, but as I have told you in conversations when we've met at events, it is a ministry where there is no winning. I have seen from Dean Barrow in the 90s to Ralph Fonseca even in this ministry, to Jorge Espat, he came before Ralph. All these big government names. You cannot win when 100 people a year, and that's on a very good year, are very unfortunately being murdered. In your plan, your security plan was called A Safe Society with Justice. But we have not seen a safe society in the past weeks with these home invasions, which, as I told the commissioner, have exceeded the normal frame of violence, which is very unfortunate as it is, but that frame of violence is gang-related violence in a retaliatory frame. But now we are seeing these home invasions. We saw the contractor general one. We saw the one down south. Last night, we had one reported in Ladyville. A man was in a yard robbed of his weapon and $4,000. We have, and the other incident as well. Is it a situation that a safe society with justice is unachievable? Obviously, the one Gigi,
Yes.
Gusenbauer, down south. Obviously, it's impossible to achieve this safe society that you promised in your security plan.
All right, let me start off by saying, one, I seriously think you need to be fact-checked because I don't know where you get your facts from.
Tell me.
You were saying I asked somebody to be the Minister of Home Affairs.
No,
of Police.
I'm saying you wish
Ask for it. You said
asked for it.
Ask who?
Well, sir, you did the presentation on security.
Yes, they asked me to do it, and I gladly did it because that is in my line of
but
work.
all the
I'm an
people who
attorney.
did those presentations ended up as the minister of that.
I just wanted to fact check that I never asked anybody for that ministry.
I would have taught you.
And I would agree with you. I might be sadomasochistic if I did. But it does not change the fact that I love a challenge, Jules. And what I can tell you is that when it was offered to me, I gladly accepted. It's a huge responsibility, a huge challenge, and I feel I owe it. It is part of my civic duty. I have legal training. I think that I can apply myself. I'm fairly young. I have a different idea and a different vision of how we can solve crime. I think you like the word I use in the house of romancing the Belizean people. But it will take some time, Jules. It can't happen. So when you say that it is impossible to turn things around, I don't subscribe to that view. Within 100 days, what I can tell you, and every time somebody said anything, it go haywire. But what I can tell you, compared to last year, this year, the first quarter, we have less crime than an already less violent crime in terms of murders.
Without doubt, yes.
We have 13 less people dead today than we did last year this time. And so I'm not saying that is some groundbreak. That's not like the COVID turnaround that Dr. Diaz and her team did. I'm not comparing myself to that. I cannot. But I think that there are ways in which we can improve the relationship between the police and the citizenry. Now, every night...
the frame of violence.
Yes, the frame of the type of violence, like you said, like you rightly said, is changing. And so we have to come up with strategic ways to combat that. Now, the Coast Guard, which is responsible for the high seas, they are working along with us. It's not something that we are shirking our responsibility at all when it comes to Mr. Christian, to Gigi. We have taken that bull by its horns as well. Even though it's not necessarily under our purview, the police department is taking that on aggressively. And I can tell you we are very close to making charges on that. So the people that we are looking for them. And so once we can find them, we will place charges on them. And so it's a community effort. What I can tell you...
But these are crimes against property. What is your message for property owners?
My message to property owners is to be extra vigilant. I know that
Should
we
they
in the
arm
police...
themselves?
That requires applying for a firearm license. And I think you may have asked the commissioner about that last night in last night's news. I think Monday. I saw that. And that does require vetting. So it's not an automatic thing that you will get a firearms license simply because you fear for your life. But it does require greater patrolling on the part of police and greater use, like I keep saying over and over, and I cannot emphasize it, innovation and technology. I see a major breakthrough in the cracking down of crime happening in the next year or two when it comes to utilizing innovation and technology. So there are diverse plans that we are going to be launching in our strategic plan. We were hoping to do it this week, but definitely next week we will have our launch.
Election the next week, 2 days gone.
You're right. So
3 days.
Before you got me there. I forgot about that.
I got you. I got you.
Maybe by the week after for sure, Jules.
You sound like John Briceño. You sound like Prime Minister Briceño at that press conference. Sir, we're winding down and we could go on all night because
fun,
I'm
Jules.
sure...
I just want you to be fact-checked. We need Damian to fact-check you because you call it all kind of things.
Sir, a DNA lab, when will we have it?
It is part of our manifesto. It's part of Plan Belize. It will cost us about $10 million, Jules. And I can tell you that we will not get it in this year. We
But
are
your plan
fighting
Belize is
COVID.
grossly misled because in that plan Belize it thought that the forensic lab was led by a police officer, which it's not.
No,
it's led as it
Director
properly
Gian
should
Chou. Yes.
by a scientist.
Yes, it is. I don't recall seeing that in there.
It's in the plan Belize that it's led by a senior officer.
No, officer, not mean police officer. You see, Jules, again, senior public officer. There's
It's
a
a
difference.
senior officer when you
Yes,
say
senior public. You could put all kind of word in front of officer.
Really?
The way you come with your facts, you
it's a
make it
senior
sound like police officer.
But that's how it sounds when you say a senior officer was at the scene. That means a police officer. But so
But let me
DNA
just
lab,
say
you're
this,
going to make a
let-
commitment
yes,
to it in
yes,
this term.
Yes, we are in talks. I mean, we always speak with the U.S. Embassy. We always speak with the Taiwan Embassy. That's something that's going to have to come in terms of a bilateral contribution. So that is what we're hoping for.
Is there the political will to do it though? Because the Enviro
100%.
promised it from 2007 and clearly did not have the will or the wherewithal to do it.
Yeah.
I'm asking you, will you do it,
There
Kareem?
is the political will. I want to see it done. I will try my darnest to get it done.
Sound like you know and get done.
No, say that, Jules. You say,
When people try their darndest to get something done,
No,
that's
I
usually...
will try my best, Jules, and you have my word on that I will try my best. And we have 5 years to do it. I'm saying for sure I don't think it will happen this year, but I do see it happening.
As you will know, there are cases in court right now. People are challenging the constitutionality of stop and search and profile. This unfortunate young man behind me the other day was profiled in a police blog. They took his picture unlawfully. One of the gentlemen in the control room, they took his picture unlawfully. Will you accept that this practice is unconstitutional, an invasion of privacy, and has to be stopped, knowing that there are multiple constitutional cases in the courts, both in Belize and in the region as well about this?
That is perhaps the best question you have asked all night, Jules.
I thank you for approving.
You're actually hitting me there right where it hurts, because I am a huge human rights advocate.
Right.
And so you're putting me in a very precarious
Because
position.
Mr. Williams believes that it is
I know
not
that the commissioner
unconstitutional.
believes that, because we have had several debates about that.
Right.
And myself, and I can tell you my CEO also subscribes to the human rights angle of that.
Right.
And so can I reserve my comment because it's pending before the courts? But
Subjudicate.
based on my yes,
You're
but
gonna
based on
hide
my
behind the
answer,
court.
but based on my answer, you know what I feel. But let us leave it at that. Let us wait for the outcome in court.
Fair enough. You've been generous with your time and your answers, Minister. We could go on all night, but he's already promised to return at the
Yes,
soonest
I don't have a
convenience.
sweetheart pass like you, Jules.
I thank you for appearing, Minister. Thank you, viewers, for indulging us for that time. We'll be back after the break predicting the election results of First in Belize. Senior analyst Damian Gough and I will tell you who's going to win and who's going to lose 1 week from tonight. We'll be back.
Technology is ubiquitous, and it's transforming how, when, and where we work. Full-Tech Systems is placing award-winning devices in the hands of information workers, allowing them to work without compromise in a world without wires, to innovate, create, and to maximize productivity anytime, anywhere, satisfying the needs of the desk-centric remote and field worker and every other worker in between. We are providing the industry's best devices to businesses going through the process of digital transformation. Partner with us today to provide the solutions that will allow your employees to work effectively and efficiently to enhance your customers' experience. Full-Tech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
Thanks so much for coming back to Uncut with Jules Vasquez. We're here with our last guest of the night, and we're way over time. I thank everyone for their patience and everyone in the studio for their stamina. We're going to our last segment with senior analyst, so dubbed by me, Damian Gough, a longtime political student and observer, and we want to tell you who is going to win next week, Wednesday, 1 week from tonight. Who will be crying, Damian, and who will be celebrating? First, we have to start with the key facts. So if we have the key indicators as of December 2020, guys, that is on the TBSL graphics provided by TBSL very kindly. If we scroll a little above that, if we could, key indicators as of December 2020, there are 45,000, right there, yeah, 45,389 male voters, 49,000 female, 94,000 total registered electors.
This is for all municipalities countrywide.
Yes, that's as of December 2020. Right now, the PUP control three towns.
Three townships.
And the UDP controls 6. And the number of the maps, you can see the number of the overall, if we come down, it's 41 of 67 seats UDP have, right? Because they don't control everyone in every town. So if we just start with this raw statistic of 6 for the UDP and 3 for the PUP, obviously the UDP are in a deep downswing right now, coming off a historic loss in 2012. Let's just look at it from a general perspective. What do you see as the UDP's main obstacles going into this election a week from today?
First off, good night to everybody. Viewership, Jules, thanks for inviting me as always. I think the biggest hurdle the UDP needs to overcome going into next week Wednesday is still the UDP. You don't recover from that sort of political loss in, 4 months? It's hard to recover. I understand they're even facing financial challenges and so on. I've heard from campaign teams that they're on the ground dry. So I think the single biggest thing that the party, the leadership of the party, the candidates that are offering themselves out there is how do they overcome just the fact that they're UDP. I mean, there's a significant reason why people voted the UDP out. We ran through a lot of that in the general election analysis. And the question will be, how much have they changed or convinced the electorate
And that's really the
of
issue.
their change in 4 months? And that's the issue.
But isn't the electorate also laboring under another practical problem that why would I vote UDP now? Yes, we know that there's widespread dissatisfaction with the PUP.
Right.
We're in hard times. The government has failed to deliver on a lot that it said it would. People are genuinely disappointed. But what practical purpose does it serve to vote for the UDP? Why send a message to Belmopan now?
Right. I think one of the most important things to keep in mind in the political discussion, and I think November the 11th drove this home for me. This might seem contradictory because of the significant swing and turnaround of November 11th, but overall I think there's political fatigue for the electorate.
So let's look at the turnout. The turnout, guys, if we could scroll down to that. Again, this graphic from TBSL.
Right.
So Orange Walk it's the next one, guys. It's lower than that. Orange Walk had 66% turnout in 2000, and it had the highest turnout.
Right.
66.92. Benquevera del Carmen, 66.9. Corozal, it still isn't that one, guys. Corozal, 65.4. San Pedro, 63.4. Belmopan, 59.5. Punta Gorda, 59.4. San Ignacio, 59.9. Damriga, 55.8. Belize City, 50.26, lowest in Belize City.
Right.
And that's because UDP voters did not come out, which they replicated in
Again,
2020.
Right.
So, what do you see on these trend lines? Orange Walk, you think will continue to be very high?
It's the Prime Minister's backyard. I expect them, despite the fact that there were some internal wranglings in Orange Walk. You have the situation with Harish, and it'll be interesting to see how powerful his influence is over the Hindu and Indian
You lived in Orange Walk and worked there for many years.
Right.
What is it about Orange Walk, Kevin Bernard? A Hispanic town with a black mayor. And Bull, the new candidate for mayor, is another likely to win.
Right.
Obviously, the PUP haven't lost there since 2012.
Right.
But how is it that this Hispanic town has a succession of black mayors? May have it second.
Because both Kevin and Bull have come through the Briseño system. And the Briseños...
They're both Briseño employees.
Yeah, they're both former employees.
I think Bull is still an employee.
It cannot be, yes he is, it cannot be underscored the Briseño influence in Orange Walk. They're major employers via their gas station, cable company, telephone company, etc. They have historically maintained a lot of people. The old side Musa adage of pay your water bill, pay your school fees, they've done that for a lot of people. They have a lot of family influence because Briseño related to this one, related to that one, and so because those guys have come through that Briseño system, they've learned the ropes. I mean,
so then we're still expecting a high turnout in Orange Walk.
I think,
and we're still expecting PUP to win.
I think
clearly.
So, yes. I think
there's
so,
no
yes.
way PUP is going to lose.
And the other factor is having lived in Orange Walk, of the entire UDP slate that is running in Orange Walk, I think I only recognized one or two of the names, and I've been doing coverage for you for Orange Walk from back in the early 2000s.
There,
right,
or some of them.
One of the members of the PUP slate is a family member of mine. It's my wife and I's niece, the young lady in glasses.
I'm thinking your family that UDP.
No, and she's a Briseño relative as well. So I mean that shows the influence there of the Briseño family.
So,
but the UDP slate that has been put forward, no disrespect to Chicle and his team, but I only recognized one or two names coming forward when they announced it. keep in mind that UDP in Orange Walk is going through some major restructuring. The influence of Gapivega as a former
It's a vacuum.
Orange Walk Don former Minister Aragon, trying to rally the troops as best he can and be the leader up there.
Right. But
in a district where you have no sort of UDP
it's a
presence. So I think they did well to at least put a slate together.
Wow, you serious?
They did well to put a slate together, but I think that conventional wisdom suggests that the PUP will hold on there as well.
Okay, so Orange Walk will have the highest turnout again, and it will be a PUP outturn again.
Right.
The second highest turnout was Benqueviejo del Carmen, 66.9. Now that's an interesting situation. UDP has held on to that tongue board, I want to think, since 2003, maybe 2006, but I want to think it's 2003. That is a UDP stronghold. It was for so many years with Erwin, Contreras, and Kaya West.
At least we thought so.
At least we thought so. Erwin got blown out by famously the man who didn't vote for himself in the 2020 election. The border remains closed as well. That's a factor, because we know that there are a lot of trans-border voters.
Being kind
Is
to
Erwin
the term.
involved? Do you think, will the UDP make that historically strong showing as it has in Benque?
I think out west in general will be interesting because the townships have been UDP for so long. Benqueviejo and San Ignacio, Santa Elena kind of go hand in hand. I again use the same comparison with Orange Walk. A lot of and this has been an intentional strategy of the UDP's leadership to try to start bringing in new people, new faces, and so on. But they're facing a very tough uphill climb. I don't know to what extent people like Erwin and Montero and so on are even how involved they are in the municipal campaign. Unlike a place like Belmopan, where Mr. Saldiva is day-to-day involved. He's on Facebook every day, live streaming and everything. I don't know how much they are involved in Benqueviejo. But again, they're facing the uphill battle of trying to overcome November 11th, I think.
So, how would you call it?
I will, if you will allow me, I'll group Benque and San Ignacio, Santa Elena together and say that it will be interesting to see how those play out, because those are supposedly two of the strongholds that the UDP currently enjoys. They lead
That's the San Ignacio slate you see on TV for PUP.
So I think it'll be interesting to see the impact of what November 11th does now to the slates running in the West. Mayor Trapp has, by all intentions, been a standout.
Yes.
Mayor, his leadership.
UDP has controlled it for 18 years.
And their slate, they've delivered. They've done a lot of work out west.
And when Michel Chabat appeared on this show, he would not call it for the PUP.
And that was an interesting little bit of insight. I'm glad you picked up on it, because I picked up on it too. He was hesitant to make a firm declaration.
Even with the PUP controlling all the seats.
All the seats in the district. So I think those two will be interesting to watch, to see whether or not, just on the strength of the work of the UDP councils over that period of stronghold, just on the strength of that work, if they can hold on to the municipalities.
So that's really the test for the UDP, if they still have a sign of life.
Right. If they can hold on to some of the constituencies, that the municipalities that they
have been historically strong in.
Presently have right now, the six that they presently have, if they can hold on to some of them, that's a measure of how much they've rebounded.
Let's come down on it then. I feel that they lose Benqueviejo and win San Ignacio, and San Ignacio will be one of only bright spots for the UDP.
I think that could be a likely outcome, yes.
Okay, so...
And if not a complete UDP win, they could realistically still hold on to like the mayorship and some of the councils and have maybe a split on a worst case scenario.
Okay, so you heard it, that Benqueviejo is winnable, but perhaps not likely for the UDP. San Ignacio, we both feel is winnable and likely for the UDP.
Right.
Based on historical trends. It would be their, in my opinion, their only sign of life. Let's move into Belmopan. That had 59.5% turnout last time. We know that Khalid Bilal is stepping aside after 2 terms, I believe, but the UDP have been controlling it since 2006. How do you see that going?
I think it'll change.
You think that PUP will win?
Yes,
Yeah?
I think it'll change.
So that I feel...
I think under the last term, there may have been 1 too many jabs, body blows.
So because of Jan Saldiva, because of the reputational...
Not just the Saldiva factor. That will be an issue, I think. But I think on its own, the last term of the council, they've had some downfalls.
Yes.
They've had some land issues. They've had some mismanagement issues. I mean...
So you think it'll be a flip?
And Sharon is I think Ms. P is a past councillor. I think under the last PUP slate that was there, under Mayor Chanona.
Right.
A vibrant, dynamic enough team. I think the UDP team is vibrant and dynamic too. It'll be interesting to see how somebody like Jackie, who's already been a councillor for some time, how she is able to handle some of those same blows that they've gotten over the course of the last term. I mean, it's been in the news about sell-offs and fire sales and bathroom and all kind of thing.
And it's just too many hits, even if it's untrue. It's just the consistent hits.
The consistency of it, and those might be a little difficult to recover from.
Okay, so Belmopan, my feeling is that it is winnable but unlikely for the UDP.
I think
and I only give them the winnable because of their long history there.
Right.
But I feel as well that Belmopan will be flipped. Let's move down the line. Let's move into Belize City. The lowest turnout, 50.26% in the last election. I feel the turnout will be even lower.
Belize City, that the population capital of Belize.
70,000 residents.
What Belize City thinks and does is usually the gauge for the rest of the country. By and large, I haven't detected much discontent with the current council. I mean, you're a resident in the city. I
feel the current council has been an abject failure. I've said it multiple times, and I'm going to diss publicly Bernard Wagner. You only sit down here, Damian, apart from the fact that you're my senior analyst, because Bernard Wagner will not appear on my show because he's a coward, and it's unacceptable that a man in public life should not make himself answerable. I am sorry. It's unacceptable to me. However, I feel they might win.
Yeah, I think they'll hold on.
I think they'll win because of the strength of the...
I think Belize City has the potential to have a little bit of a split, though, because I think there are 1 or 2 candidates from the UDP that Shane Williams, Leon Gill, the young lady Tasher.
Yeah.
I think a couple of them are dynamic enough that they might be able to slip in. I think I wouldn't be surprised if I see 1 or 2 of them getting in Belize City.
We're going to vehemently disagree. There's never going to be a split in Belize City because Belize City is mobilized by the 10 constituencies. And when Lake Eye turns out, my brother, they don't vote splits.
Right,
they vote blue.
And again, you get into some of the issues like the financing, the ability to mobilize.
Yeah.
You throw the impact of Corona into it.
Yeah.
If 2011 taught us anything, it's that an election is a super spreader waiting to happen. Forget about 140 cases and so on. Elections are spreaders, whether the current government or the past government want to admit to it. That's what happened with elections. That's why our numbers skyrocketed through November and December. But I too feel that the turnout in the city will be low.
Yes. It's hard to go lower than 50%, but I think it may go lower than 50%. But I believe PUP will hold on. And well, Orson has made it. You know, it's a shame. I think he's a good candidate, a credible candidate, and I think he has a lot of integrity. But he came into politics to me as a sacrificial lamb.
And that was, in fact, and I'm maybe privy to some of the discussions that I know took place when they had their virtual convention to nominate the state. That was one of the concerns that I know some people expressed, that he could be one of the potential new and bright faces for the UDP moving forward. He definitely enjoys the support of the party leader. But the question is, do you throw him out there now? You could potentially, for lack of a better word, ruin a man's political career at a time now when it's hard to overcome 26-5.
It's very hard. So, Belize City, we're saying that we feel the PUP is likely to win there.
Yeah.
Let's jump over to San Pedro. 63% turnout in the last election. We know how close it was.
But remember, the last election the municipals were very close. I think that ended up in court, and you had. I think the mayorship was only about 40 odd votes.
Right, and the margin was razor thin.
Right.
If I could find that out here, I could tell you the exact numbers.
Right.
But I want to see if I can find that. I don't have it on this. Let me see. I do have it. Let me pull it up right now, because I know that we're way over time, guys, and I apologize.
The guys in the room have been waving you down. Good thing you can't sit in the way I could sit in.
Yeah. So if I could just pull up San Pedro, those are the slates that you see there. But let me just pull up the San Pedro tongue. Let me show you how close it was last time. This is the TBSL graphic. It was 2,667 votes for the UDP and 2,629 votes for the PUP. So that is a margin of only 38 votes.
Yeah, 40 votes.
Right. Yeah.
And it ended up in court.
It ended up in court. So I'm saying.
And considering the significant swings that took place out there, Manuel Heredia lost by such a historic margin. You and I commented on that on election night. I think they continue to ride the wave out there. If you go back to the days of when Pati Arceo was the rep and they had PUP councils out there, I think that will happen. I think Bob can maybe get in, and maybe the young lady Asweta. But best case scenario for UDP out there is a split. Worst case is that it's a complete
minority split.
A minority split.
I'm seeing a complete sweep for the PUP out there because of the disaster.
Just the swing.
Right,
just
the swing. Exactly, the swing.
Right.
All right, so moving on to our next town now, we go to Dangriga.
Right.
It's a split seat right now.
Already.
Right, it's already split 6-1, I think,
right.
So Papa lost in the last election.
Right.
Significant margin again. Humphreys is running again. He's a popular mayor. He's won 3 times, I want to say.
2 for sure.
2 for sure, yeah. So Humphreys is, will Humphreys be able to hold on? Mariano, the former commissioner. We had the graphic there, the margin last time, guys. Could we bring that up? So last time it wasn't that close. Humphreys won by a comfortable margin. Yeah. And the question is, Humphreys is now going up against Robert Mariano, the sewing policeman. Right. Will Mariano be able to upset Humphreys with the PUP swing?
Dangriga and by extension Punta Gorda are 2 of the more interesting ones for me, because I know Dangriga has had a council that has delivered a bit. Mayor Humphreys is well liked. I'm out on Dangriga. Toledo, whereas you said San Ignacio is probably one of the few hopes for the UDP, I throw PG in there as well. I think
really,
despite the fact that Mayor Mackenzie has said he's stepping down, I know they've done a lot of work down there. They've done a lot of work. They've had some recent issues with the gas station.
Hells yeah.
And that has riled up a lot of people. But I think that's one of the other potentials that maybe UDP could hold on. I don't remember who's running for the mayor down there for UDP.
Guys, we have the candidate for the mayor for the UDP in Punta Gorda. Hansel Warrior, presently on the council.
Right.
And the PUP had 2 conventions to try and get I'm told that the way I was told is the PUP had 2 conventions to try to get rid of Mr. Salgado, the mayoral candidate, and Luke Palazzo, the great champion of the teachers union, lost by 4 votes, but only because his good side man Chips was down and out with COVID, and he couldn't make it out there to bring in the 4 votes. Yeah, that's the story that I heard. But I'm just saying.
Chips is retiring from politics.
Chips is retiring from politics. Yes. So you're saying that Dangriga, in your mind, too close to call. I feel that Dangriga is going to go in the swing of the PUP. But you feel that PG, the UDP, has done good work there, and it's too hard for me to tell. And the Mike Espat thing is a little bit screwy because Mike Espat has the unusual distinction of being a minister of state to a minister of state. Right. They really chance Mike in at the cabinet assignments. Right in a Chris Coy minister of state. Chris is John's minister of state, and he's Chris's minister of state. Hey, Mike, all love, brother. The man.
I mean, overall, though, you'd be hard pressed to not want to call it the obvious, no?
Yeah.
Conventional wisdom tells you what. Yeah, it just goes with the swing. Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's all the tongues and the 2 cities, because we didn't
touch Corozal.
We didn't touch Corozal. Let's come back to Corozal.
And Corozal is the most interesting one because they have a by-election as well.
Right. So guys, we could bring up the graphic for Corozal. We know that Corozal last time PUP won 7-0 with Rigo as the mayor, right? And we know that Corozal also had, in terms of the voter turnout, Corozal had 65% turnout, strong, consistent with the North. Right? I believe that, let's talk first about the town council in Corozal. Could I see the result from last time, guys? You had it up briefly on the screen. Yeah, so it was close, but significant enough margin of victory for the PUP last time.
Which I think they hold.
They hold, yeah.
I think they hold.
PUP holds on in Corozal. I feel the same way, that PUP it's within the sphere of influence for the PUP. They won 3 or 4 seats. And Hugo Pat's going to have a warm time on Friday. Commission of Inquiry reconvenes on Friday. I'm told he's going to be one of the persons.
And the Commission of Inquiry is politically was time to do exactly this going into municipal elections, to just turn the coals a little bit and remind the electorate of what we're...
Right. So I think, it works to the benefit of PUP. Right. Tell me about the by-election. Corozal Bay.
There will be no getting over the Dito Vega sentimentality factor.
His sister is running in his place.
And again, if you're the electorate in Corozal, this one sound bad, but why do you elect somebody from the opposition when you elected a PUP who unfortunately passed away by an overwhelming margin? He never even get one.
Yeah.
Before he passed, he wasn't even in the mix for cabinet. He was one of the overlooked.
So, but the converse argument is, he was one of the overlooked. So, the PUP have already shown them their true colors. Dido, very unfortunate. Dido was twisting in the wind. Dido, I know PUPs who he had spoken to saying like, man, I feel left out because he didn't get a minister of state. Right. He didn't get a ministership. Right. And now the voters know that his sister, no, he get it even worse. Right? Because Dido had fought for years to be the rep. He lost before in the town council. Or did he lose at the general? He lost at the general.
He
lost at the town council. Yeah. And he fought the Garcias for years to
and he lost at convention.
At convention, and he eventually was victorious over the great Garcia clan.
Right.
But I'm saying that the voters can have the converse thing. Oh, so you don't show away your colors. You don't show away that Ono may make Dido chairman of a board. That's the way Dido may get. So why we vote for Uno now? And we know that Gilberto Campos is a 4-time mayor.
Right.
And so he's a successful politician.
He is. I thought the UDP was brilliant in
well,
I mean, it was already hinted Exactly. They should have done that from
long ago.
before the generals. They should
because Pablo's margin was shrinking. But I'm saying, do all these things combine to give Gilberto Campos a chance?
In the overall picture, I think no.
That it's still the wave will still go to PUP. I think the PUP will probably have more money, more organization, and I think the PUP will hold on in both the tongue and the by-election. And the by-election.
So do I.
Good. So you heard the predictions here. You know that making political predictions in Belize is not something often done, but we know business. Because, you know, we're happy to be proven wrong. And if you feel
it makes for good discussion. It makes for good discussion.
Exactly. So a week from today,
we'll see if what we've said
tonight, me and Damian will be back here with a different background.
With Bill.
And we'll know whether we were right or wrong. So with Bill Linder, we'll be back as well with one of the great pundits. Not economic pundits.
Don't tell him that. He's written books.
Thanks so much for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
And viewers, thanks for joining us. Sorry we went so grossly over time, but the election time, the comic,
and lots of interesting topics.
Thanks for joining us on Jules Vasquez Uncut. We'll be off next week, but we'll be back the week after. Thanks. Join us then.